as they come in. But I would like to go ahead and welcome everybody to our March NED Talk. If this is first time for you, NED Talk's sort of a, not a steal, but a spinoff of a TED Talk, but it's our nature education talks. And we do these every month. Topics are wide and varied, and sometimes our audience are the ones that spur on, future talks. Just let me know, hey, what about, I have an interest in, and so ... fill in the blanks, and love to hear things like that and be able to oblige. My name is Becky Etzler, and I am the executive director here at Riverside Nature Center. And we are tickled and thrilled and everything to have Bill Wren with us today. I gotta tell you, I was telling him earlier, I'm going to let him kind of do his own, introduction. But it was 2012, I believe, when I heard Mr. Wren talk, and for the first time, and I knew nothing. I knew nothing about the dark sky movement. I had always enjoyed as a kid. I had that kind of mom that said, "Come on, let's throw a blanket on the backyard and look up at the sky." She didn't know her constellations or anything, and I today still don't, but I enjoy that. I enjoy just the vastness and the immenseness, and Bill captured that, and then kind of pulled me in, and I realized, yeah, this is something that just for nostalgia purposes, but there is a true need to preserve our night skies. So, what little, I have done in this movement, or future endeavors, I owe it to the man that's going to be talking to us today. So thank you, Bill. And we can, I think, go ahead, and as I said, I'll keep admitting people. We're going to, I think, and correct me if you don't want to do it this way, Bill, but I think we're going to hold our questions until the end.
Yeah, I have mixed feelings about that. So it might take a little longer if people have questions during the presentation, but then again, I have found that if we hold them to the end, people will forget. I've had people come up and say, I was going to ask you, and then I forgot, and what have you. So I'm okay, if you're okay, for people to jump in and, wave their hand or whatever, and,
sure,
and ask a question while I'm speaking. It's fine. I'd rather address it in context, I think, than wait. So if you're all right with that, that works
that's
for
perfect.
me.
Perfectly fine.
Okay,
we also have the option of going ahead and typing in your question in the chat. So down at the lower part of your screen, you can just click on chat and type in your question, and I'll be monitoring those throughout the presentation as well. So raise your hand, or type in your question, and we'll go from there. I have been told, excuse me, from other presenters and people on Zoom, because by no means am I, a Zoom technician, but if we're having some connectivity issues, I may interrupt and ask everybody to turn off their videos, because sometimes with everybody's videos going, that kind of interferes with bandwidth and things of that nature. So, but you can unmute yourself, if you have a question as well. So we will go ahead and get started. So thank you. A little prematurely, thank you, Bill Wren, but let's go ahead and start our discussion on the dark skies.
All right. Yeah, don't thank me yet. It's premature. Hopefully you'll enjoy this. And I'm putting a link in the chat for everybody. It's a white paper, a page and a half with a map on the Greater Big Bend International Dark Sky Reserve that I'll make reference to in the course of my presentation. I'm Bill Wren. I came to work at McDonald Observatory in March of 1990, so I guess it's been 31 years now. And I started out doing public information, public programming, teacher workshops, and my job just gradually evolved into protecting the night skies. I attended the second annual meeting of a fledgling organization, the International Dark Sky Association, back in 1990, when I just a month after I came to work here, and learned that there is no conflict between having good lighting for safety and security at night and being able to see the stars overhead. And I kind of did that in the area around the observatory for fun in my spare time. And in 2008, when the boom in oil and gas took off in the Permian Basin, it's a lot of people think it's fracking. It's really not fracking. It's directional drilling, the ability to drill horizontally into a formation instead of just vertically through it, and combined with fracking that led to that big boom in production, exploration production in the Permian Basin. It started to light up our skies to the north and northeast, and it became a quarter time of my job responsibilities, then half, then 3/4, and now for years now has been a full-time position to keep the skies dark for science, ongoing science at McDonald Observatory. So it's really strange the way it became a job. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so I can go through some slides with y'all. And it's a very visual topic, this. Let's see. So I've got a bunch of slides, and so I can whip through them pretty fast. I've had quite a bit of practice this. Is everybody seeing the McDonald Observatory logo? Everybody got it? Great. Thumbs up. Good. Thank you. I hope many of you have visited the observatory. Becky says that she hasn't made it yet. I wouldn't recommend it now with all the COVID restrictions. We're 450 miles west of Austin, but yet we're under the same rules right now as the University of Texas. So we're very limited in public visitation right now. The visitor center staff here is doing a great job, but in limited numbers to offer both daytime and nighttime programmings. And if you visit the observatory's YouTube channel, there's live streaming that we do that are then recorded. You can watch them later. You don't have to join it live, but one of my sidekicks, Stephen Hummel, does an excellent job of touring you around the night sky with the camera on a telescope and showing you things and talking about them. So highly encourage you to join in on, take a look at some of that stuff. It's really good. I think I'm going to be doing one with him and talking about dark skies in early April 7 or 8, something like that. But anyway, this is the observatory. And all that green that you see, by the way, is not photoshopped in. That was the picture was taken in August at the height of our monsoon season. We get about 18 inches of rain at McDonald Observatory annually, 18 to 20. Fingers crossed for the monsoon season, just kind of June, July, August timeframe, and the desert will just turn green overnight. It's amazing. You'll wake up and it's like somebody threw a switch. But the site was chosen in 1932. I won't get too much into the history, but it's at the bequest of a gentleman named William Johnson McDonald, Paris, Texas banker, who passed away in 1926 and left his entire estate to the University of Texas to erect an astronomical observatory with a telescope big enough, as he put it, to peer into the very gates of heaven to see if there was anybody there. So interesting character. And here we are. The telescope on the left is the 82-inch reflector. It was the second largest in the world when it was dedicated in 1939. So gosh, we're coming up on what, 90 years now? Geez, it's amazing. Since the site was chosen in 32. Then 1969, the 107-inch telescope on the right came into use, funded largely by NASA at the height of the space program in 69. And then that little dome you see between them is actually a mile away on the next mountain over. That's the Hobby-Eberly telescope. And it is today one of the largest telescopes in the world. It's tied for second largest worldwide. It's a 10-meter class telescope, uses a segmented mirror, and is currently conducting a study of dark energy, looking at galaxies out toward the edge of the observable universe, 12 plus billion light years away. In certain objects it's looking at, it may gather only a couple of dozen photons per hour to build up enough of a spectrum to analyze. So anyway, cutting edge research that requires extremely dark skies, which is why I think protecting them became a full-time job, because we've got a lot of instrumentation invested in being able to do stuff that you can only do under the darkest skies. And their skies are still very dark here. I talked about the glow from the Permian Basin. I'm going to talk about it in some detail here and just explain how we are quantifying it, measuring it, keeping an eye on it, how we've worked. I'll talk a little bit about how we've worked with the oil and gas industry to make their lighting their nighttime activities night sky friendly, and we've had some success there. But the skies overhead are still incredibly dark, so we're not hampered at this time. It's only a potential threat that we're trying to keep under control. We are also one of the founding members of the Giant Magellan Telescope, which will soon be the largest telescope in the world. And the Atacama Desert, I think that's how it's pronounced, I should know, in Chile. A segmented mirror design also. It's kind of hard to get the scale here, but each one of those mirrors is 8.4 meters across. It's about 28 feet for each mirror. I think I got that right, or no, it's more than that. But anyway, with only 4 of the 7 mirrors in place, it will be the largest telescope in the world. 2 of them are complete. 2 of the mirrors are complete and sitting at the airport hangar in Tucson. The others are in different stages of fabrication. We are a dark sky destination. That's something that's really important. It's one of the big selling points around here, certainly, for keeping the skies dark, is that it attracts a lot of heads in beds. We do star parties 3 nights a week, Tuesdays, Fridays, Saturdays. We had to go to a reservation only system because we were seeing 1,000 or more people show up for a single star party. You get that many people, nobody has any fun. It's just too many people. So we pre-COVID, we had it down to just maybe 600 people or so per star party, but we were seeing paid admission of about 100,000 visitors per year. I know the Big Bend National Park sees about 500,000 visitors per year, and they report that their nighttime programming is the most popular programming that they have, highly attended, more so than any of their other programs. So it is a draw for people to get out and see the night sky. So we do a lot of informal science education with people, just visitors of all ages and stripes and colors. And we also do formal science education. We conduct on the order of 8 to 10 science teacher workshops throughout the course of the summer. These are STEMS-based accredited workshops. So we send teachers back into the classroom with lots of hands-on activities to get kids fired up about astronomy and science. Our goal is not to try and raise a new generation of astronomers per se, But I can tell you, if you get kids interested in astronomy at an early age, which isn't hard to do, by the way, I mean, they're fascinated by outer space and that kind of stuff. Get them interested in astronomy at an early age, they may well branch out into other technical fields, electronics, engineering, different stripes, optical, mechanical, electrical. I know many people, dozens of people that started out with an early interest in astronomy and had good enough sense not to become a professional astronomer because nobody's making any money at it. But they branched off into other engineering fields and are doing quite well. One of them actually that I know was responsible for making Google do what Google does. So anyway, he still is a very advanced amateur astronomer. This is the lay of the land in West Texas and far West Texas. These counties are huge. It's hard to appreciate the size of the space out here. But back in the 1970s, in fact, I think it was signed into law by Bill Clements. They passed a state law that allowed the counties, these 7 counties surrounding McDonald Observatory in far West Texas, to enact outdoor lighting ordinances designed to protect the night skies for McDonald Observatory. It was voluntary, and over the decades, that's one of the things that I spent a lot of time doing, was getting, Jeff Davis County was the only lighting ordinance when I came to work here in 90. But we got 6 out of 7 counties. Reeves County was the lone holdout, and they were very transparent. They didn't want any regulations that would scare away the oil and gas industry. And you'll see why shortly. But in 2011, former Governor Perry signed a bill into law that changed the language from "these counties may adopt" to "these counties shall adopt." That brought Reeves County on board, and he included all of the incorporated areas. So we're looking at 7 counties, 28,000 square miles of area, 18 million acres, and all of the cities within that all currently have outdoor lighting ordinances. So that's a good thing. Although the ordinances, it's not about enforcement for us. The ordinances are vehicles for education and awareness, good conversation starter, but then we talk about what makes for good outdoor lighting. And like I said, you'll see why Reeves County didn't want to scare away oil and gas. The blue dots represent 10,000 drilling permits that were let over the course of 10 years. Well, kind of lit us up in the north. Now, in all fairness, I have to say that I don't believe that any of these operators that came in to explore and produce oil and gas in this region were aware that these counties had lighting ordinances. I mean, the county ordinances in Texas are like unicorns. They're not supposed to exist. So it caught them by surprise, and we've been working with them to, again, light their nighttime activities in a night sky friendly way. And a good example of that, I'll put in the Alpine High Play that Apache Corporation announced in 2016. We reached out to Apache because they're much closer to the observatory than the other fields in northern Reeves County and Culberson and Pecos. And they listened, and I'll show you some examples of the nighttime lighting that they have on their major facilities here just in a little bit. This is what it looks like from space a year ago or so, January, pre-shutdown, before the bottom fell out of the price of oil. But the region in southern Reeves County, the Alpine High Play area, is pretty heavily developed, but yet the lighting is not nearly as dense and offensive. In fact, the offensive stuff you're seeing is not Apache lighting. Those are other operators. So when we look from McDonald Observatory to our north and northeast, we see this globe down on the horizon that wasn't there 10, 12 years ago. The mountains in the background used to be silhouetted against the starry sky. Now they're silhouetted from the glow of oil and gas activity in the Permian Basin. We adopted a system that was initially developed by the National Park Service back in the early 2000s to measure the amount of extra light that was in the sky that really didn't belong there. You can see that these clouds are lit from below, indicating lots of light shining skyward. But this is just a camera, a science grade camera on a telescope mount that's automated with a laptop computer and some batteries. Again, it's National Park Service invented it, and it's about 60 pounds. It was designed to be backpacked into very remote areas in our national park system. And they're still processing our data for us, but we replicated the system. And what it does is it takes 45 images of the night sky, everything emitting light, and stitches them together into a panorama that looks like this. This is one way that you can depict it in this projection. See, the National Park Service is interested in the horizon, what the view shed, they call it, looks like to their visitors at night. But you can see the Milky Way, you see thousands of stars, and knowing the exact time and place that these images were made, we can subtract those natural sources of light, leaving only the unnatural sources of light, all right? And the number that you see over there, 31%, tells you that, well, that when you look at that image, they're averaged out over the entire sky, there's 31% more light than there would be if it were simply all natural. But the good news is that it's all concentrated down low to the horizon. Astronomers aren't using these big research telescopes to look down into the trees on the tops of the mountains. So the sky overhead, and it's actually depicted much better in a fisheye view, a projection like this. You can see that the sky overhead is still extremely dark. This is where most of the objects of astronomical interest are located. So yeah, it's an issue, it's a concern, but we're not expecting, no one is expecting, including the oil and gas industry, they're not expecting their activities to come any closer, any further south. In fact, the Alpine High Play, Apache, has basically been abandoned because it didn't pan out. The geology is just not right for them. But here's a beautiful little movie. I hope this plays for you guys. Hope you got the bandwidth to see the Milky Way. This is looking south from the observatory. This was made by Joe Hansen with PBS. There's a YouTube channel called It's Okay to Be Smart. Wonderful documentary, and I'd strongly urge you to visit his channel as well. He does every topic. He's a biologist by training, but he picks a topic, a science topic, and spends months doing research, interviewing people, visiting sites, and puts together like a 8 or 9 minute spot that condenses it all down. And he did one for light pollution for us. It came out really good. Let's see, I'm hoping this is gonna forward for me. There we go. All right, to talk about lighting a little bit, I know that's really what you guys are most interested in. I'm hoping is how to preserve the night skies. First off, don't believe everything you read in the newspapers. But I show this slide as an example of what many people's impression is of what we're trying to do. People hear that I'm an astronomer, I'm coming from McDonald Observatory, I want to talk about preserving the night sky, I want to talk about controlling outdoor lighting, and they go, he's coming to try and talk us into turning off our lights. He wants to pull the plug, leave us in the dark, no safety and security at night. Simply not true. We are not against outdoor lighting. We are in favor of good outdoor lighting. And I want to show you as many examples of that as I can. I think it's really important to emphasize and dwell on good lighting instead of just complaining about the bad lighting. You got to be solution oriented with this. And there's lots of good arguments for it. So the main things that I'm just going to run through here, the fact that we are losing the night sky worldwide, and that this is about dark skies, it's not about dark ground, okay? We are not anti-light. And then with the advent of the LED, there's a whole lot of white light at night, which is blue rich. You get to white light by adding blue. and then light that is out of place. That's basically just being wasted, not doing anybody any good, lighting up the night sky and the bellies of birds. This is actually 2014 data, so it's somewhat dated now. But one thing you might notice, there's a clear line of demarcation here. And some of you may recognize that that's Interstate 35. So basically everything east of I-35 is toast as far as being able to see a naturally dark sky. And the regions in the west where you can still see a dark sky are becoming fewer and farther between. They're shrinking. It's circle the wagons time. The National Park Service and state park systems are really good at trying to protect the night skies. This is an example of the trends. You know, it would be interesting to show you a picture from, say, 1878, if the satellites were around back then, and I could show you an image when the year the light bulb was invented, 1878, you wouldn't see anything, it'd be black. You wouldn't see any upward light at all. But again, it's getting worse at a rate a little over 2% a year on average globally. The sky is brightening 2% a year. So it won't be long before we lose track. Estimates are right now that about 90% of the population in the United States and Europe cannot see the Milky Way out their back door. So again, these regions where you can go to see the naturally dark night sky, it's getting very important to protect them. Here's locally, this is 1997 data, and then jumping forward, this is the city of Pecos. I'll just call your attention to that on the Pecos River there. This is where the oil and gas, but it's Midland, Odessa up here. And then 17 years later, I'll blink these back and forth. All that extra light you see up around Pecos just kind of disappears. That's all oil and gas activity. That's not population growth. But you can see the observatory is still located in a very dark location. We do have that glow on our horizon to the northeast, but it's not harming us. You can also see that the towns of Fort Davis and Marathon, both of which have been doing a lot of work to mitigate light pollution, that they've actually gotten darker. There's Fort Davis here in Marathon have actually, their footprint has decreased, which is good. So we are in the process of putting together an application to the International Dark Sky Association to form what will be the largest international dark sky reserve in the world. There are 18 existing now. This will be about 17,000 square miles, and it will include lands south of the river in Old Mexico. There are 3 protected regions there: Santa Elena, Ocampo, and Del Carmen. And the Big Bend National Park, the Big Bend Ranch State Park, which now includes Chinati Mountains, are already designated as international dark sky parks. They will be part of the core of the reserve. The way the IDA lays it out is you have a core where the lighting restrictions are very stringent, and then a buffer where they're a little more relaxed but still stringent that supports the core and helps buffer against intrusion of light. So this is a big elephant to eat, but we're getting an application together. Hopefully later this year, we'll have it ready to submit. One of the things that we're doing, a lot of public education. We're doing town hall meetings out the wazoo around the region, chambers of commerce, downtown associations, and so on. And we have a business recognition program that we are launching. We have 4 candidates to be the first recipients of this in the area that have good lighting, and we'd like to hold them up as examples. That's very, very, very important thing to do, is to identify good lighting in your community and hold those up as examples. So you can say to people, go check out the lighting in the Lowe's parking lot, or, go over and see the Walmart or whatever it may be, some preferably some high profile business that or government building that people would recognize that is well lit, and show it to people, point them in that direction. This is the kind of lighting that we are in favor of, as opposed to being against the bright, glary stuff that nobody likes. Let's see. We're also taking sky quality measurements all around the region. That's one reason why this application process takes so long. Is we need a good year plus worth of readings to demonstrate whether there are any trends, just using a handheld sky quality meter. If you'd like to learn more about that, you can visit the Globe at Night, globeatnight.org, and they'll tell you about keeping track of your nighttime sky. But we're also revisiting all of these lighting ordinances I was talking about in the areas. They need to be updated to reflect LED technology, current technologies and practices, and get some language out that is not very commonsensical. So really, these are the steps that we're introducing. Shielding the light. Well, the current ordinances already have shielding as a requirement, but again, catching the wasted light and putting it down where you want it onto the ground, lowering the color temperature to be a warm white as opposed to a cool white, and then lowering the intensity. We have a lumens per acre cap in our proposed ordinance language. Actually, Jeff Davis County and the city of Valentine have already adopted it. So we're hoping that everybody in the region will agree. Don't use more light than you need to. And then adaptive controls, timers, motion sensors. A switch is a wonderful thing for a light that's not being used at night. Just turn it off if you don't need it. So those are basically the steps in a nutshell that we're trying to promote. And this is a photograph of Tucson, Arizona. And this is an old slide from the original IDA slide set I got back in 1990, but it still illustrates the point very well. Tucson has had a lighting ordinance since 1973 because of its proximity to our National Observatory on Kitt Peak. And most of the lighting in Tucson is excellent, but you can see these facilities that stand out with all the glare and the light going skyward. This is actually looking out over the University of Arizona campus in downtown Tucson. This is a swimming pool complex on campus, and this is a tennis court complex on campus. Notice the glare. This was taken from above, from the top of a 5-story building looking down. So there's no reason why you should see these bare light bulbs shining up at you from above. Whereas notice how well lit the tennis court is. The playing surface is well lit, but you do not see the light bulbs. They are in shielded fixtures to keep all the light down on the ground, which means they can use a lower wattage bulb and get the same amount of light, by the way. So cost efficiency is a big argument here. And same thing with the street lighting in Tucson. You've got well-lit sidewalks and intersections, but you don't see the light bulbs from above. You can see several street lights that are silhouetted against the roadway, and then the tops of their poles going right on down through town. So this is the kind of lighting that we are trying to promote. It's well-lit ground, but the light's not shining wasted into the sky. Fortunately, TxDOT, Texas Department of Transportation, has adopted this flat lens Cobra head design. It's a full cutoff fixture. It's a good light fixture like the ones you saw there in Tucson, not to be confused. I will mention, though, that they have decided on a color temperature standard of 4,000 degrees Kelvin. And I'll explain that in a second. It's a little bit too blue rich, but these flat lenses shouldn't be confused with the sag lens, which is not night sky friendly. This refracting lens that hangs down below allows light to go skyward from that fixture, so avoid those. And then, of course, the adjustable floodlights. The joy of these is that they can be replaced, or excuse me, not replaced. They can be easily aimed to point straight down. But I mean, with them aimed up like that, you've got, half of the light is going up into the sky. We there's one oil and gas facility, I didn't include the slide, I wish I had. They took our suggestion and aimed their floodlight straight down. And I got email back saying, oh, we love it. We can actually see, the glare is out of our eyes. A big part of increasing the visibility is reducing glare. And when you see the bare bulb like this, the glare can be debilitating. Most of y'all probably seen this slide before, where a floodlight is aimed at you and you don't see the guy so well. You aim it down, and lo and behold, he stands out. They're doing it in the oil field. This is one of those portable light towers that everybody loves. I know they were a menace up and down Mopac when they were doing all that construction over the years, but because they had them aimed up down the roadway in motorist eyes. But these guys, they took our suggestion and aimed the fixture straight down, and they love it. They just love it. It's amazing the reception we've gotten in the oil and gas industry with our lighting recommendations. Now, this is a couple's home up in Midland who heard one of our talks and decided they would go shopping for carriage lamps. I mean, even something decorative like a carriage lamp can be done night sky friendly. So they replaced them one at a time and went out with their iPhone and took a picture. Here's a photo where only one of the lights has been replaced, but notice the difference in the footprint against the wall. The pour fixture shines light up. It's lighting up the eaves overhead and going up the side of the wall. Whereas this one, the light is recessed up into the top of the housing and the light all goes down into the sides. And then they replaced the second one and took this photo, and you can see that there was an American flag hanging in the door all along that wasn't visible because of the glare before. So again, it's all about reducing glare and keeping that bare bulb from being visible to your eye. So the arguments for night sky friendly lighting are many, but cost efficiency is certainly going to be the most effective argument. By catching the wasted light and aiming it down, you can use a lower wattage bulb and get the same amount of illumination on the ground. You reduce the glare, which increases your visibility. So safety and security is another big argument. You can demonstrate that to people very easily out in your community and show them the difference. Health, I won't go into that other than to say, if you do a search for light pollution and health on the internet, you will find yourself depressed in no time. Blue rich light, the study after study, peer-reviewed scientific studies have shown that exposure to blue rich light in particular at night suppresses melatonin production. It disrupts your circadian rhythm, your immune system is suppressed, and so on. So it's not good for any living creature, which the environment, meaning every creature on the planet, evolved in a diurnal cycle of day, night, day, night. Now, in and around our major population centers, at best, it's daytime twilight, never gets dark. So a good idea to sleep in a dark environment if you can. Then protecting the night sky, what can you say? If Van Gogh were alive today, would he be inspired to paint Starry Night again from Saint-Tropez in France? He wouldn't be able to see the Milky Way tonight. So, and then science, that's what I'm about, is protecting the skies so we continue to do astronomy. And then tourism, that's becoming a big argument out here, certainly. I know that the Jeff Davis County Commissioners Court was very big about updating their lighting ordinance to help attract tourism to the region. In fact, Enchanted Rock, interesting to note, they were one of two, Copper Breaks and Enchanted Rock were the first parks in the state of Texas to be designated as international dark sky parks. And shortly thereafter, the gateway communities to Enchanted Rock, Fredericksburg, Mason, and Llano, all adopted outdoor lighting ordinances to help protect the skies for tourism at Enchanted Rock. So that's a really good way to push back, is to go for these dark sky, official dark sky designations for parks, communities, reserves, sanctuaries, and so on. Visit the IDA. I'll have the website up at the end. But that's a great way to push back, is to get an area designated for protection, and then the surrounding communities hopefully will get on the bandwagon. We're also doing a lot of mitigation in the area. Well, we've been doing it since the 1970s here at McDonald Observatory with privately donated funds. We replace light fixtures. We help residences, businesses, and industries adopt good lighting. I love this example. This is the Hotel Olympia in Fort Davis, one of their outbuildings where they have a bunch of rooms. They had these LEDs that were, this is what I would call a blue rich, the white LEDs. The bulbs were a little too long for the fixtures. They stuck down below the housing, the shielding. And when I approached their maintenance staff, they said, well, you know, it's funny you should mention that, because it's not uncommon for us to go out in the morning and find that the guests have come out of their rooms and unscrewed these bulbs, and we find them laying on the ground. The light was shining in their rooms at night, disturbing them. So we bought them some bulbs that fit up into the fixtures and shielded the light from view. You don't have the glare. We lowered the color temperature. And this is a real good time to talk about the color temperature. I keep referring to it. But warm white, oddly enough, is the lower color temperature, and cool white, oddly enough, is the higher color temperature. I think people in the lighting industry would make good plumbers, where red is hot and blue is cold. But anyway, that's a personal problem. But the limit that we are recommending for the ordinances here is no more than 2,700 degrees Kelvin, what the industry calls a warm white light. So you'll notice as you go to whiter colors, you're adding blue, more and more blue content to the spectrum, the spectral content of those lights, till you get to the high end. It's just plain blue. So you get to a white light by adding blue. So we were trying to keep blue content out, not only for the health reasons I referred to earlier, but the shorter wavelengths of blue scatter more off of particulate matter in the atmosphere, so it creates more sky glow, which contributes more to light pollution, and it also hampers your visibility at night. Keep in mind that for thousands and thousands, hundreds of thousands of years, it was firelight, oil lamp light, torch light. Then even the early incandescent light bulbs were all warm white in color. It was only after the Second World War, when mercury vapor was introduced into the environment, that we started seeing 6,400 degree Kelvin lights in our nighttime environment. It's very recent, and we're only now coming to terms with the consequences of introducing blue rich light at night. It really does mess with people's biology, all living creatures' biology. Here's an example of a retrofit we did up in Balmorhea. We didn't have a whole lot of money left in our pot of donated funds, so we had identified 4 light fixtures, 2 on this side and 2 on the other side. These were under the eaves, so we said, that's okay, and they're warmer color temperature. So we bought them 4 replacement fixtures, and when we drove by to see if they'd installed them yet, what we found was that they had bought 8 more of the same fixtures, so it'd be uniform all around. So this is a great way to go about it. If you do a fundraiser, or if you have a pot of money, pass the hat for your neighbor or a local business to help, not completely buy all their fixtures, but at least some seed money to help offset the cost to bring their lighting into night sky friendly compliance. It's a really good way to engender goodwill. And this is a great example of that they went all the way and lit the entire building, not just the 4 fixtures that we provided. Marfa City Hall, again, the observatory provided these fixtures. They installed them. I had before pictures, but I didn't include them anyway. They had bright white unshielded lights before that created a lot of glare. And I said I'd show you some examples of oil field lighting. This is great stuff here. These are full cut-off fixtures, fully shielded fixtures. Notice the color temperature is warm white. That's 2,700 degrees Kelvin at a compressor station. And they built a huge demethanizing facility, a cryo plant for liquefying natural gas. And this was taken from about 300 feet up from a drone. And you can see, well, what you can't see are the bare light bulbs. You don't have the halos, the glow that you would see if the bare bulbs were visible. And you can see that it's warm white light. And I've spoken to people at Apache and Altus Corporation, who's the contractor that did all this. I've got email testimonials a mile long about how much better their workers can see at night, that this has improved safety and visibility on site. They can actually see the snake that they're about to step on now. So anyway, we're real happy that that these people have joined in. Now several companies are on board with this. We only have 999,000 left to go. There's a lot of people, a lot of players in the Permian Basin doing oil and gas. So I'm going to wrap it up here. There's the International Dark Sky Association's website, darksky.org, a plethora of information there. And then McDonaldobservatory.org, we have a Dark Skies Initiative page, which I put together. So it's really just a string of links and photos and stuff that I don't like Drupal for web publications. But anyway, that's another personal problem. And this, by the way, is a photograph from Mars Hill overlooking Flagstaff, Arizona. That Flagstaff has had a lighting ordinance since 1958. It was the first dark sky community in the world. Very well lit. People can see what they need to see, but you don't have light shining into the sky. The stars are clearly visible. So I'd like to thank you all very much for your kind attention and open it up for any questions that you might have. Are we still there?
Come on, folks.
Yeah, I always worry when I'm giving a presentation because I can't hear you, and I'm thinking, oh gosh, maybe I lost him.
Yeah.
The connection went down or something. But I hear you, Nick. So
I did want to, give a plug, so to speak, to a brand new group that has been formed here in Kirk County, and that's Kirk County Friends of the Night Skies. We haven't gone public yet, so to speak, in asking for memberships or volunteers, but we're getting our ground work done. The foundation is being built, and we actually have several members here at this program today with us. So Facebook and website, Kirk County Friends of the Night Sky. If you have an interest, give a shout out, and we definitely can use use the help. It looks like we're getting a few questions in our chat, and we kudos to you, Bill. One saying, so grateful for these wonderful talking points. I'll use them soon. So this is a member of the Friends of the Night Sky group, and so woo-woo, get those talking points out there and start talking to our neighbors and businesses and such. Lucy has a question. She's asking, from what I can tell from your presentation, lights under a covered porch should be okay since they don't shine directly up. Is that true?
It depends. If it is lower, okay, I'm going to use my hands here. Hope you can see. If this is the bottom of the covered porch, and the light fixture, my fist, is below the level of that porch, the bottom of that porch, the light can still shine upward out from under it. If the light is up above the level of the bottom of the eaves, the porch, then it is night sky friendly. The light's not going to shine up. But if it's below the level of the cover over the porch, then the light can still go out and up.
Okay, good to know. Good to know. Don't be shy, folks. This is a great opportunity to ask the expert some questions.
You want to play Stump the Astronomer? Sorry.
Hey, Bill, go ahead and
I see Bill's hand up there.
Right, go ahead and unmute yourself, Bill.
Okay, one of the things that we've run into, you're very fortunate with your 7 counties located around McDonald Observatory. In the last legislative session, there was a bill passed that prohibits dark sky ordinances in most communities in the state of Texas. And we are sort of in a situation where we're up against that and trying to come up with an ordinance to enforce reasonable lighting in our community. Any comments on that, Bill, or any?
Oh, yes, sir. I'm familiar with the bill, and it from the very beginning. If we're talking about the same bill, because there have been a number actually some that have dealt with hotel occupancy tax money and spending it for dark sky related things, purchasing fixtures and so on. But the bill you're referring to, I believe, limits the ability for a municipality to enact an outdoor lighting ordinance to those communities who are designated as or who have applied to the IDA to become a dark sky community. So I think the intent was right. I believe they were trying to encourage communities to go for that dark sky designation, but it's kind of the chicken and egg thing. They really created a catch-22 where you can only enact an outdoor lighting ordinance if you are designated a dark sky community, and you can only be designated a dark sky community if you have an outdoor lighting ordinance. So it's really pretty silly. But the provision is, there is a provision in there that says, or you have applied to become a dark sky community to the IDA. Now, for me personally, it seems, again, silly is the best word I can use, to tie a community's ability to regulate their outdoor lighting to a private nonprofit organization, the International Dark Sky Association, which for all we know could fold tomorrow. Then where are you? So it's ridiculous that they tied the two together. But if you were to apply to the IDA and tell them that you would like to pursue designation as an international dark sky community, then you would, under law, have the ability to pass an outdoor lighting ordinance.
I think the bill we were talking about was one enacted by the Home Builders Association and regulated the products that could be used in building. And
yes,
extended to the to lighting fixtures, and that you could
all
not
materials. Yeah, all the building materials were. I don't know that it specifically mentioned lighting fixtures, but it just talked about the materials that were used in construction, that kind of thing.
That's correct, and it did not mention lighting specifically, but it was interpreted to include that. And there also was a time limit as to when you had to be a designated community prior to a certain date. And I think that date was like 2 years ago. So it prevented you from going in and saying, okay, we're going to become dark sky friendly, and therefore we can enact ordinances. You had to be grandfathered in order to do that at the present time.
Okay, well, you are clearly more familiar with the language than I am. That's unfortunate. That's very unfortunate if that's the case, and I trust you. I know that, do you all know the name of Cindy Luongo Cassidy in Driftwood outside Dripping Springs? She's the gal that basically wrote the Dripping Springs outdoor lighting ordinance, got the application in and got Dripping Springs designated as an international dark sky community, and essentially created a job for herself with the city to police it all. She knows, I think it's Representative Zwiener that sponsored the bill that I'm referring to. I'm not as familiar with the bill that you're referring to about the construction materials used have to be approved by nationally recognized organizations, that kind of thing. And by the way, there are a number of nationally recognized organizations like the Illuminating Engineering Society and others that are interested in pursuing night sky friendly lighting as part of their construction techniques, that they're seeing the demand increase and they want to be able to offer that to their customers. So I'm not sure, there's that provision about this stuff being recognized by these construction techniques and hardware being recognized by established trade organizations and the like. But I brought up Cindy's name because I know that she has spoken to Representative Zwiener about the bill that I was referring to about the IDA status, determining whether or not you could apply or whether or not you could pass an outdoor lighting ordinance. And I'd be happy to get Cindy's email into this. I'm not sure how happy she'll be about it, but I'm gonna find it anyway. Now, she's a good friend and she'd be happy to hear from you all.
And Cindy, by the way, is also, I believe, if not president, she's at least, on the board of the Texas IDA chapter.
She is the president of the Texas chapter of the International Dark Sky Association. There's her email, Cindy Luongo Cassidy, CLC, and that's Texas Night Skies Festival is the TNSF at gmail.com. She'd be happy to respond to your questions, Bill. She could probably speak a lot more authoritatively to it than I can. But yeah, it was really disappointing to see that. But again, I think the intentions may have been good to try and encourage communities to pursue IDA recognition or designation, but it's backward. It's a catch-22 situation.
There was a question asking for that bill number, if either one of you gentlemen know that.
Yeah, I'll get that.
Yeah,
Thank you,
I've
Bill.
got
Great
it
talk.
somewhere, but if you can provide it, Bill, that'd be great, because I'd have to dig for it right now.
Okay. Joseph had just wanted to comment when we were talking earlier about lighting underneath porches. And he was just commenting that, most of the light directed down onto the attended area of the porch is not just night sky friendly, but remember, it's also neighbor friendly. And
yes. Yes. In fact, Lowe's department stores carried, I think they still do, carry selection of night sky friendly fixtures, and they advertised it as neighbor friendly or good neighbor lighting. There was a section in their lighting department called Good Neighbor Lighting where you could find night sky friendly fixtures. So yeah, exactly right. And they even had a graphic done up that showed, light shining into your neighbor's bedroom window and that kind of thing. Something I hear about all the time, by the way.
Yeah.
So, and I'll just add here that it's interesting to note that I get calls from people whose neighbor's light is shining in their bedroom window and keeping them up at night. And the first thing I ask them, have you spoken to your neighbor? And they say, oh no, can't do that. Wouldn't do that. And it's like, you're the expert, you're the photon police, you talk to them. And it's like, we're education and awareness. We're not enforcing anything, folks. So really, for me, it's kind of become cliche, but if you got a neighbor with a bad light, the path of least resistance is to purchase them a replacement fixture, go up, knock on the door with the fixture in one hand, a chocolate cake in the other hand, and just be nice, keep it between neighbors, because what I've found is that when I get involved, when McDonald Observatory gets involved, then, the enforcers and then a bunch of ill will. I mean, it's really about education and awareness, being able to show people that they can save money, they can improve their visibility, they can not offend their neighbors by using a shielded light, neighborhood friendly, good neighbor lighting. So don't be afraid to talk to your neighbor.
No truer words have spoken, don't be afraid.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I think Bill's trying to hunt down that bill number. And so
I've got it. If there's any more questions, I'm happy to entertain them, but let me look here. And lighting, I think this is where it is. Texas legislator, yep. Okay, oops, no, that's those are just contacts. That's not one of, bills, here we go. Yes, it is House Bill 233. I don't know, no, House Bill 298. Yeah, the one that Bill was referring to is 233. The one that that's Representative Murr, and Representative Zwiener's bill that makes reference to the IDA designation is 298, House Bill 298. And there are a number of others that you might, I just throw the numbers out here for anybody that's interested that do have reference to outdoor lighting. The 233 and 298 I already referred to. Then there's Senate Bill 1090, 1090, House Bill 4305, Senate Bill 2133, and House Bill 3733. So those are
element to it.
all. Those are all up now. I'm sorry.
And each one of these have an element to it that directly affects our night skies.
Yes, ma'am. And I could give a synopsis of each of them, but I don't want to take up your time. You can go to the state legislative site and find those bills without any difficulty, I'm sure.
I mean, the fact that it's coming up, whether it's positive or negative, that this conversation is being had at the state level isn't that, some reason to be a little positive about the movement in the night skies? Or
that's open for interpretation. It's I think that there's just a general kind of anti-regulation spirit that is making the rounds, and so I don't know, how much of that is in play here. I've just put all those. I managed to copy that out of Excel and posting these different bills in chat. So
awesome. Thank you.
There you go.
Great. So we've got another question. Since you've had such good success with drilling companies, can you give pointers for talking to neighbors with problem lighting along with a chocolate cake?
Hey, chocolate cake goes a long way in my book, but anyway, first off, I want to point you to the IDA's website, because they do have, it used to be an information sheet. I'm not sure what they call it now, but they do have a paper or a section there that I believe is still entitled "How to Talk to Your Neighbor Who Has a Bad Light." they have some real good advice. But for me, it's my approach is usually to say, can we help you can we help provide you with a night sky friendly lighting fixture? Again, just straight to solutions, not, oh, your light is so offensive and it's so bad for the night sky and it shines in my bedroom window and it keeps me up at night. It's just, I'd really like to help you get a light that's friendlier to the neighborhood, friendlier to the night sky. I'll help pay for it, or I'll install it for you, or, you know, something to, whatever you can do, whatever interpersonal skills you may have to keep somebody off the defensive. That, again, the general perception out there, first off, the brighter the better. So, you know, the more light, the safer I am, which is not true, demonstrably so. But they're also thinking that you want them to turn their lights out. You want to take their light away from them and leave them in the dark. So you've got to be aware that those are concerns that you may run into. So instead of talking about how bad their light is, talk about how good a replacement light could be, and that you are in a position to try and help them obtain that and install that. That's, you know, the best I can do on short notice. For it really depends on the neighbor and the light and the you know, in context kind of situation. But it's all about good lighting. It's not about anti-lighting.
And that's good. That's great advice. Is that, you know, you're not trying to take your lights away. We're just trying to make your lights better.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
yeah,
great.
I mean, if everyone would simply keep their own light on their own property, this problem would go away.
Yeah. And
It
I
really
think
would.
a lot of people, you know, in your list, you know, of the win-wins solution or situation with friendly, night sky friendly lighting, you know, money talks. And, you know, your approach of let me help you defray the cost and things, you know, that helps. But when people start realizing that they're actually paying for light going up that is completely useless to their purpose, you know, but they're paying for that. And so if you can demonstrate to them, you know, your actual energy costs are going to be lowered, and it's going to be more effective. You know, your money's going to have, you know, bigger bang for the buck. Just turn them down, you know?
Yeah.
So, and people understand that. Let's see here. We've got education of bad lighting is highly effective with neighbors, even without mentioning their bad light. And in that, once I understood how harmful to just our bats, it really caught my attention how important it is. So yeah, again, you know, a little bit of education goes a long way. I mean, you talk about, you know, going and knocking on your neighbor's door, and that is frightening. But oftentimes they don't even realize. They have no, you know, they're very centric, you know, in their focus, and they don't even realize that light's shining into your bedroom window. And the minute that they realize that, they're like, oh wow, you know, didn't know that.
Yeah, the private property rights cuts both ways. I mean, if light originating on your property is lighting up my property, you know, I've got rights too. So yeah, if people would just keep their own light on their own property, it's just that simple.
Well, Mr. Wren, I appreciate you joining us today. It was a pleasure. It always is. And lots of good information for viewers today. And if you have friends or family that couldn't join us and are interested, or if you want to just, you know, share this, if I have Bill's permission, I recorded today's session, and we can put it up on the website in our video library at Riverside Nature Center, if that's okay.
Super, please.
Okay, awesome. So, you can direct people, to the website to see that. That'll take about probably 24 hours to get up, but it'll be there quickly. So great talk.
One last word. I just want to revisit and remind you all to please identify examples of good lighting in your community. So you can point people to that and say, I'm not trying to take your light away. I'm trying to give you a better light. When people see it side by side, I'm just like the oil and gas people. It's like, oh gosh, we were very skeptical at first, but once we saw it, wow. It was just the improvement in visibility and safety at night was overwhelming to many of them.
Wonderful. All right.
Examples.
Thank
Okay,
you
guys,
all.
thank you.
No, thank you.
My pleasure.
And appreciate it. And same time, same channel next month, Ned Talk. Just keep an eye on our website. So thanks, everybody. We'll see you soon.
Thank you.